as you guys come in, go ahead and say hi. We're getting everything set up. Okay. I'm not awake. And so, okay. Good morning, Amy. Good morning, Addison. Oh, no. All right. So, this morning, I need like a whole pot of coffee sitting here next to me. It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a very, very long day. Let me just, there we go. Okay. It's a day full of, like, the obstacle of the day is probably just being tired. And I don't know if that's an obstacle that is necessarily a good obstacle or not, but, well, actually, it probably is. In truth, even being tired is a good obstacle, because it forces you to really dig down and find more energy and more ability and strength and perseverance and all these so awesome fun words, right? So, but morning, Patrick. I got a few people coming on. So yeah, so as I was sitting here half awake trying to figure out what the heck the topic of the day was, I realized, well, it's Friday and we have the obstacles of going through the weekend, and oh, here's the big obstacle next week, and all the different things that it might lead to, you know. Or what, we're a little over halfway through the month. I'm sure that many of us are looking back and examining the last 2-3 weeks and the things that we have not done and the reasons why we have not done them. And we probably have these lists of, I mean, I know I do. I have different things where I've kind of the last week fallen off on my walking and my excuses. It's really cold out there. It's really cold, and it really is really cold out there. I'm like, it's really, really cold out there. You know, I don't want to walk in that cold. But that's a small thing. It's a really, really small thing. What are the obstacles that you look at? You know, what are the things that come at you? We've got New Year. Everybody's thinking about their taxes because, you know, everything's going to be coming in and we can start filing for taxes. Morning from Melbourne. Wow, yeah, good morning. Good morning. So, you know, we're dealing with taxes, dealing with health stuff. I know a lot of people are challenged with the flu right now and colds and you name it, different stuff. And companies are laying off and there's timelines and, you know, when that's happening. So I was looking at this and I'm like, the path with no obstacles leads to nowhere. And here's the truth behind our paths. I think as a society, and I'm talking world society, for the most part, we might want to go like 85-90% on that. We kind of have been trained to believe that life should be easy and, you know, we shouldn't have to do I know, I'm just flipping all over the place here. I was off to pick up one of my kids yesterday and I got in the car and this radio show that I don't listen to, but I got into the car and it came on, and right before I turned it off, the guys who lead the radio show, the one guy said, imagine if our world was like that. That would be a horrible world, a world that I had to slice my own bread in. You know, like these two, I just can't even, like, off. I can't even listen to it. A world that it would be horrible if I had to slice my own bread. What a horrible thing, right? But here's the thing. That's the kind of world that we live in. We live in that world of microwave. We live in that world of everything that we need or want. It really is at our fingertips these days. We don't have to try too hard to get anything. We don't have to really work for a lot of things. We don't have to, a lot of people don't have to earn things. I mean, look at what we're doing with our children even. We give rewards out to the ones who win, and we give rewards out to the ones who don't win. Everybody's a winner, everybody says everybody's that. And what we're teaching with that is that we're teaching that there's not really any obstacles in the way, that life shouldn't really have these obstacles. And what happens is now we have an adult society, and we have more adult society growing, right? That really falls apart at the seams when obstacles happen. And we look at obstacles as though they are these traumatic events that, are not changing any, that the change that they're offering is not a positive change, that it is always a negative change. We hit these changes, and what happens is we go, what am I supposed to do with this? How do I get through it? And we just, what we do, we go and we drink some alcohol, we smoke some pot, we veg out on the couch and watch a whole bunch of Netflix. We've got so many adults, well, by age they're adults, otherwise they're not, because there's so many people out there that really do not know how to move through life and embrace different challenges, because they've never been taught how. They didn't get the parenting at home to embrace. Everything was, pampered and babied there. And then the school system pampered and babied to a degree, right? That's the whole give a reward for whatever spot you came in. So there's no winners, there's no losers. Everybody's equal. And here's the thing: when we lose, when we're in fourth grade and we're in a contest and we lose and we get zilch for it, there's a humongous, beautiful lesson there. There really is. And yeah, some kids will just fall down and be like, and they have a tough time picking themselves up. Other kids are like, man, next time I want to. There is stuff that comes out of every single lesson, every single obstacle as children moves us forward on the path. Now, as adults, we can look back at that, and there's plenty of adults out there that do understand that our children need to fall down. A child learning how to walk has to fall down numerous times to learn how to walk. A child learning, different things in school has to learn through the failing forward, and that's what it is. It's failing forward. But then we reach our adult lives, and because of the way society is and everything being handed to us, that and the upbringing of there's no this, there's that, right? Everybody's equal, everybody's special. There's no win, there's no lose, there's no obstacle. Changes our ability as we get into then what? Our late teen years, our early 20s, our 30s. And then all of a sudden we're in our 30s and we hit this area and we go, oh my gosh, all of a sudden life gets real. Because in our 20s, our parents are probably still saving our ass for the most part, from what I can see out there. My parents didn't save my ass in my 20s, but from what I see of the world of today, is that there's a lot of 20-year-olds that really still have these buffers in life, that it is a thing of just the last 20, 25 years that 20-year-olds have these buffers. I mean, unless you were of really high society, that through all of time you had that buffer of family. For the general population in their 30s, up until 25 years ago or so, that wasn't the case. You graduated high school, you went to college, a lot of people worked 2 jobs, and went through school, or couldn't go to school and ended up just working a job and doing this and doing that, and life kicked in and reality set in. Now we have 30-somethings who still don't have life settling in and are getting hit with different obstacles and not knowing how to move through, and those obstacles are destroying them. Absolutely destroying them. Because they don't have the mental, emotional muscles built up the understanding build up as to how to move through. And then you move forward, and I have, I probably, the majority of my clientele is probably in their 40s and 50s. The people that I coach, and some in their 60s, but they're still those people in their like mid 30s to early 60s. There's this group of them where a lot of them are just going, this happened, that happened, and they look out and they actually are still believing, because of the way society has happened, that the brainwashing of the ease has infected everybody. So they get in there, and then all of a sudden they don't know how to connect to themselves. They don't know how to move past an obstacle. Now that, we've been talking yesterday and the day before, we were talking about loss and all this different stuff. Well, loss is an obstacle, right? We lose somebody, however that might be. That causes an obstacle in our life. We lose a job, that's an obstacle. We get into a car accident, that's an obstacle. We find out that we have a horrible disease, that's an obstacle. We break our ankle, that's an obstacle, right? Our kid ends up really, really sick. Maybe we just end up really, really sick for the week with a nasty flu bug. It's an obstacle. We, get bypassed 3 times at work for the promotion, even though we're doing all this hard work. Why? So here we are, a society that is, in general, not really capable of being able to work through obstacles. And here's the thing, if we don't work through the obstacles, then we're not actually going to discover the beauty in the obstacle. If we're just sitting in it and we're waiting for somebody to come rescue us, come rescue me. I'm in the middle of the quicksand. No, the quicksand's your obstacle. Get the fuck out of it. You get out of the quicksand. You. Stop waiting for somebody to rescue you. There's so much beauty that comes from every single obstacle. A path with no obstacles has no fruit on it. Quite literally. There is nothing good that is going to come from that path. You learn nothing. It's actually probably pretty boring. I mean, think about it. I don't really believe that there's a path without obstacles, because obstacles are those lessons and things. But we all, parts of us, want these paths that have no obstacles, because we're like, oh man, it would be so much better if it was just easy. I have a quote here: a successful man will never see the day that does not bring a fresh quota of problems, and the mark of success is to deal with them effectively. Along with that, yes, learning how to deal with things effectively, but in that learning of how to deal with things effectively, that's where you find the beauty, that's where you find the blessing, that's where you find everything that you're really needing to create your path. And here's the thing, if you really get comfortable with the obstacles, what you'll notice is those obstacles make you who you are. They make you who you are. And you would not be the person you are today if you hadn't moved through obstacles. And if you look back at the challenges that you've experienced thus far in your life. Hello, Michael Harris. Hello. Have fun at yoga. If you look back at the challenges through your life, look at where you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Imagine if those obstacles hadn't been there. Who would you be today? What would your message be today? Would you be as the person that you are? Now some people would probably say, oh no, I wouldn't. I'd be better because, this hadn't happened, then I wouldn't have this trauma to deal with. I wouldn't have this healing to deal with. I wouldn't You also wouldn't have any compassion. You also wouldn't have any empathy, no understanding. You wouldn't have the abilities that you have and that you're gaining if you're working through those things in this moment without those obstacles. Every single obstacle is set in place to give you a beautiful gift. Most of it comes back to learning compassion and empathy and forgiveness, and and strength of drive, finding your courage, discovering love, loving unconditionally. Discovering your passion, motivation, self-motivation, which is the only kind of motivation that you actually really have. All of obstacles lead to those things, plain and simple. You do not, look at, let's take a 13, 14-year-old who hasn't really had too many challenges, right? Parents have taken care of everything. They enter into high school, they're, 8th grade, 9th grade. Now let's look at this 8th, 9th, 10th grader even, and let's examine their thinking when it comes to how compassionate are they? Do they even know how to spell the word empathy? How good are they at giving unconditional love? How good are they at having passion for something and drive and focus? How good are they at forgiveness? How good are they at really being able to come into consciousness with themselves? And I can go on and on and on, right? But look at that. Now, take 30, 40, 50-year-old. For the most part, most people have learned pieces of empathy and compassion and love and forgiveness and presence. And they at least have these flickering moments of being able to tap in and do that. Although ego does run rampant and takes over the majority of the time for the majority of us. But if we had not had all these obstacles throughout life, would we be able to hear somebody's story and actually put ourselves in the feeling of what they're feeling, and connect to that and be able to understand to a level? Maybe we don't understand what they're going through, but we can understand that they're feeling like this because we've felt like that over something. So we can connect, so we can hold space, so we can help. The 13, 14, 15-year-old has no clue, can't do any of that because they have not experienced. They have not experienced. They're going to instantly go into ego, and they're going to instantly go and create more drama in their life, because that is what that age is all about, is drama. Stirring up the drama pot and bringing in and learning lessons through it, creating their own obstacles in life, right? Madison says, things can be obstacles to move through or weights that hold us down for no growth. I see this in the millennial generation, but I also see the older generation sitting down in their roads and quitting on their growth. Yes. It's true. And it's right there. We always have my statement, right? And you get to choose. You get to choose. And that's quite literally it. We get to choose. When presented with an obstacle, we can choose to, let it be a weight, or let it be basically an axe or a pick that is helping us move through our path, to our path. Because in general, what obstacles do is they move us towards the path that we're supposed to be on. They move us towards our goals if we allow them to, which means we get in there and we don't quit. We don't quit. We go, okay, this is what's happened. What do I need to learn from it? What's the message from it? How can I move through it with grace and ease? How can I find the love in it? How can I find, this is a real big challenge. I'm being pulled out of myself. How can I pull myself back and really tap in and allow myself to feel in this moment, to really connect to myself in this moment? And yeah, a lot of people choose to just sit in the middle of the road, as Addison said. It's true. Just gotta sit there and go, that's it. I'm not moving on. You know, I've had 3 divorces and lost 2 businesses and just got diagnosed with cancer, so I quit. I'm gonna just sit here and I'm not gonna, fuck it. Okay, fine. That's your choice. That's your choice. But you're still breathing. You know, yeah, that's a whole bunch of shitty stuff. Those are a whole bunch of different, you know, challenges that you've been through. You can either let that eat away at you and cause you to just stay in that spot and not grow, or you can look at it from a completely different vantage point, and go, how, what, who am I? Who am I really? Because I can tell you what, all 3 of those particular things were solved with self-love and care and going internal and doing a lot of internal work, much like every obstacle out there. Things, you know, those bumps in the road, no matter how hard they are, when we put worry towards them, we're basically just wasting our energy on emotion that's not going to do diddly squat for us. But putting our energy toward something else, like you know, really finding compassion for ourselves, finding self-love for ourselves. Because, and why do I go towards the self? Because every single thing that we do, every single obstacle that we have is all about the self. And the self is how the energy that we give to ourselves, the way we view ourselves, the way we love ourselves, the way we forgive ourselves, the way we stand up for ourselves, the courage that we find to be ourselves, all of that reflects back out into the world, and is exactly how we deal with the people that come into our life and the situations that come into our life, the obstacles that come into our life. So doing that internal work consistently and looking at an obstacle, nothing more than like, oh, here's my new textbook for the next whatever. That's it. Got to make it through this textbook. Got to earn the credit. There you go. Because that's all an obstacle is. It's just your next little bit of learning. It's the next little bit of learning. There is beauty in acknowledging and moving through the obstacles. Ignoring them often result in them showing up again, just bigger. Yes, obstacles become bigger and bigger. Baseball bats, as I call them. Spiritual baseball bats. Thank you, Amy. You just made me think about a story. A few years back, I was working with a woman, and her and her husband, they were moving through a lot of different stuff, a lot of different obstacles. But it was funny. She was having her house redone, and, you know, not redone on the outside, but she was redecorating the house, and her friend was an interior decorator. So her friend was over, and we had a lot of storms here in the Dallas area that year. I mean, a lot of lightning storms. So her friend was over, and they were working on the master bedroom because her husband was out of town, and she wanted to surprise him with, you know, the master bedroom being done. So her friend was over, and they were getting everything put together, you know, hanging the pictures and putting everything together, and everything was looking really, really pretty. And she had to run someplace. So she ran someplace to go do something. And she left her friend at the house. And her friend gets everything done, and it's like, well, she needs to go home, but then something else happened, and she needed to finish. So she saw something in another room, so she started to finish at that project, you know. And then she had texted my client saying, okay, I'm going to leave, you know, I'll lock the door, blah, blah, blah. But then something else happened, and she was like, oh, I need to finish this. So she ended up staying at my client's house and finishing up all this different stuff. She ended up staying like an hour and a half later than what she was actually planning on staying. And she didn't live that far away from my client. So it would have been a really quick to get home. So she finally gets in the car, and she gets home, and she gets home to the fire department and the ambulance and the cops, and our street locked down, and smoke on the street and all this stuff. And she pulls up, and her house had been hit by lightning. The whole top floor was gone. Most of the bottom floor was gone. The lightning had come down the upstairs chimney and just basically blew the whole house up. So lucky for her, it was just the house. She wasn't in the house. Her husband was not home either. If she had been home when she originally planned on being home, she probably would have been upstairs reading a book, watching some TV, as she had said, and it would have been like that. She would have been wiped out, gone. Okay? Her 2 dogs were in the house, and they did not survive. But all in all, she got out of that pretty damn good with the loss of 2 dogs and the loss of the house. But her and her husband still had, their lives. So that's a lot of blessing there, right? That's a lot of blessing. Like But there's also a message, because this is now a humongous obstacle that she just got faced with, that her and her husband got faced with. And yeah, so we can be sad about the dogs, but the obstacle is not the dogs. The obstacle is that the house, exploded in lightning. They lost everything. They literally lost everything in that moment. So thank you, God, for the blessing. But what is the obstacle? So interesting thing, this woman, I was talking to my client after this happened, a couple days later, and my client's telling me about, oh my gosh, this is what happened to my friend, blah, 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 blah. And I went, wow, like that's a baseball bat if I've ever seen one. God's trying to get a message through to them. I don't know about what, but like he just struck your house with lightning, and he made sure that you survived and made sure that you got stuck, kept sending you back to do things so you would not be there. So this is a message that you're supposed to survive, but what are you supposed to get from this? What does it mean to have your house blown up by lightning? And I told her, I said, if I was you as a friend, I would kind of get your friend inquiring on the spiritual message there, because it's a big one. It's a big one. And I'd hate to see what God has planned. And literally, I said this to her like a couple days after the house blew up. I said, I hate to see what God has planned if you don't do the work and figure out what that message is, or at least start making an attempt energetically to try to figure out what that message is. Well, friend's like, yeah, and she's on board with that, and she's like, I'm going to talk to her about this, and blah, blah, blah. So a couple days go by, literally 1 week after the house gets hit by lightning, the same woman that has her house hit by lightning has a massive heart attack. I'm not kidding. She has a massive heart attack. Now, it's probably the stress of having the house blown up and all this different stuff. But what are the odds that 1 week later, she has this massive, massive heart attack? Okay, so the house, which is the home, which is basically the holding of our heart, blows up. Everything about her, the home is also a representation of who we are, different parts of us. Every single room is a different aspect of who we are, of our personality, of things going on, right? And then to have 1 week later, she has this heart attack. Guess what? She survived the heart attack. She survived the heart attack actually very, very well. So baseball bat number 2, house, heart attack. She's now laying in the hospital. She has nothing, okay, except for some insurance money. Woo. And her husband. She's laying in the hospital. She has this heart attack. It's bad, but the doctors are like, she's actually doing great. She's doing great. So again, God does not want her dead. God wants a message. And now on top of it is like, this is a very clear message coming right at her. There's a message for her husband, but it is more towards this particular woman, because she's the one who had the heart attack, right? This is like major. It's affecting him, but it's truly affecting her. This is a big, big obstacle for her. So when my client told me that, I'm like, wow, did you talk to her about the house? And she's like, yeah, I talked to her like next day about the house, and we're talking about this and we're talking about that, but she just thinks that, it's just her luck. She's just unlucky like that. And I started, and so I inquired. I was like, what's going on in her life? Like, and I went straight to the relationship. I said, what's her relationship like with her husband? She's like, oh, they have a horrible relationship. They fight all the time. They don't eat, they don't talk, they don't this, they don't that, blah, 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 blah. All this different stuff. I'm like, oh. I'm like, wow. I hope she gets this message, because the third baseball bat's always the nastiest. And I mean, God, this is a very serious message for God to explode the house and then give you a heart attack. How much bigger can the baseball bat get? And I mean, the moral of the story, which is a very true story, by the way, it really is a true story. I did not make it up. Didn't read it someplace. It was really happened to one of my clients, friends, a few years back. But you know, in that story, the moral of what was going on for this woman is that those bats got bigger and bigger and bigger. And do you notice that each bat was what? An obstacle. It was an obstacle, a very big obstacle, but an obstacle, life-changing, course-changing. If you start viewing the obstacles as the course changes that you need to make, and you get into alignment with what is going on. I mean, I myself, over the course of the last little over a year, I was not aware of the little things that were happening. And then about 8 months ago actually, is when it really like kicked in. There was some things that happened in my life that started moving energy, and it was uncomfortable, but I had to breathe into it, and I kept breathing into it, and I kept accepting it in love as much as I possibly could. I let myself fall apart, but I also accepted the things that were going on in love, and I'm still accepting those things in love and holding faith. So here's the message in this, is that one of the things, like with that woman, she said, oh, I'm just unlucky like that. And she's fighting, and she's probably pissed off, and she's probably angry at the insurance company that they're not paying quick enough, and she's probably pissed off at her husband that, you know, that this happened or that happened or whatever. I mean, we get really upset with different things. And the opposite of that is to choose to come at things with the spiritual sight of love, of you know, allowance, that we do need to embrace all of our emotions on it. It's okay to cry. It's okay to get mad. It's okay to be fearful and scared. It's okay. But can you come at each obstacle with, well, this is my course, my path changing. It's changing. God has a bigger plan. God has an idea. And the change, I'm in that hard spot. I'm in that, like, oh my God, when we're working out, and you know, the first few days we're like, yeah, I'm going to do this. And then a week gets in and our muscles are sore, and we take 2 days off, and we get up the next morning, you know, Monday morning, and we're like, yeah, I'm going to the gym. And your muscles just go, fuck you. Fuck you, I'm not going. But what do we have to do in that moment? Go anyway. Because there's pain there, but still we have to push through, and we have to have our goal, our dream, our desire needs to be bigger, and we have to have faith that the obstacle of the pain that we are going through is just our course getting turned to exactly where it needs to be. I mean, I know for myself that it's like I've gone through like a major facelift in my life, you could say, and I'm not talking facelift, but I'm talking energetic change. And when I look at it, I went through really dark spaces where I was just like concerned and worried and upset. And I was looking like through some of my journal stuff over the last 6-7 months, and there's like a victim stuff in there, and there's, you know, but it was only a day here, a day there, a day here. For the most part, I have kept my eye on the messages that the universe, that God is sharing with me. I've kept my eye and my focus on that. I know that what is happening is that my path is moving and changing. Actually, I am getting the opportunity to become in full alignment for possibly the first time in forever, actually. I mean, there's been pieces of my path that have popped up and that I've kind of grabbed a hold of and done stuff with, and then obstacles have gotten in the way, and I've had to push through, and some of them were like multiple year obstacles to get through. And that was it, finding strength, finding courage, all this different stuff. But now it feels more like I'm more in alignment to. So if you look at every single obstacle as though it is just getting you into alignment to your path, as to your true path, because the path of finding our dreams, our desires, becoming who we want to be, living the life that we want to live, all this different stuff, it's not a straight path. It's not straight. It just goes, and each one of those fun little curves aren't so fun. Most of them aren't fun. Most of them are obstacles, and it's hard to go around those corners. It's hard to go around those corners. It's like driving the road to Hana in Maui. You know, the corners are like basically you're turning on yourself. It's really, really scary. And there's other cars coming at you, and the road's not even wide enough for 2 cars, but 2 cars are on it somehow. That's our life path. It's the road to Hana. Maybe I should change this to life path is the road to Hana. So the point is focus in on the blessings that are being given, because every obstacle is a blessing. Every obstacle is moving you toward your desire. Every obstacle is trying to get you closer to what you claim you want. It is God clearing out the things that you don't need, the attachments that you have that do not serve you, and strengthening you for all the gifts that you actually have to give to the world. Because you know, there's all of us have these things that we want to do and we want to experience, and people we want to be, and things that we wish that we could be. And obstacles are what builds up that, you could say, that spiritual 6-pack of, muscle that allows us to truly be who we are. And without them, we would not be the people that we want to be and we desire to be. But even in the midst of all that, they are there for that. But we have a choice. Do we move through the obstacles with grace and ease, focusing on love, forgiveness, healing, doing our work, staying committed, allowing ourselves to have a day of ego, but not getting stuck, not setting up camp there? Or do we choose to set up camp there and spend however long, perhaps the rest of our lives, sitting there with just the obstacles around us and beating the shit out of ourselves and saying, oh, good things happen to other people, not to me. I'm just not lucky like that. Oh, that's because you're blah, 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 blah. That's because you have that degree, this degree. You live there. I live here. You look like that. I look like this. It's your choice. It's always your choice. Each one of us has that choice. Where are you planting your stake? Are you planting your stake on moving through with grace and ease? Or are you planting your stake on, I'm going to just sit here in the middle of these obstacles and let them dogpile me and accept that from my life? So I challenge you to look at the obstacles that you've been through, how you've moved through them. Look for the pattern on how you've moved through them. Become more conscious on really how you can move through. And as obstacles, no matter how big or small they are, realize that they are actually all small. They're actually all small because they're your obstacles. They are your obstacles. But you have one of the biggest supporters known in the universe, and that is God, universe, energy, whatever the fuck you want to say. Use God for easier. As God supporting you, guiding you, helping you, giving you strength, giving you support, giving you everything that you need, because in the midst of those obstacles are also the messages as to how to deal with those obstacles. But you gotta tap into your heart, tap into your feelings, tap into your core, ask for the guidance, and open up to it. Okay, so like always, if you found this message to be good, touched you in some way, please share it. And I'm not here tomorrow's Saturday, taking Saturday and Sunday off, but I will be back on Monday with Conscious Coffee at 6 o'clock in the morning. Thank you everybody for popping in this morning, and all the extra people that popped in too that I see on here. And I will catch you guys Monday at 6 o'clock. Go have a fantastic weekend.